Hello and welcome to the Empowered by Claudia podcast, where we explore all things self-development. Here you'll discover practical tools, tips and strategies to help you feel more confident, empowered and in control of your life. I'm Claudia, I'm your host, I'm a registered nurse and mindset coach, fear of success instructor, and most importantly, your guide on your self-development journey. I know firsthand how confusing and overwhelming and isolating this path can feel. So I created this podcast so you never have to navigate it alone. Hello, lovely, and welcome back to another episode of the Empowered by Claudia podcast. So today we are going to be talking about goals and, more importantly, when goal setting feels heavy. So this is for you if you have ever rolled your eyes at goal setting because it's never worked before. If you are approaching any conversations about New Year's resolutions and thinking, ugh, I am not here for that. Again, this is for you. I know so many times in my life I've set resolutions and a few weeks down the line, a few months, everything has gone off track and you feel like a failure. You feel like just doubting in yourself, like, can I actually even do this? Why does everybody else achieve their goals but not me? And by the end of this episode, I really want you to feel like, why not me? Why can't I do it? So if that sounds something that's interesting to you, then carry on listening, because I'm not sitting here from someone who's achieved every goal that we ever set. I'm sitting here coming to you with a string of failed goals and started journals that never got finished. But I want to share with you the things that have helped me. And I just want to reassure you that if you're feeling nervous, anxious about setting goals or New Year's resolutions or whatever that might be, that actually I believe in you and you can do it. And maybe this is the year, 2026 is the year for you to actually make significant progress towards your goals or even achieve them. I'm just going to make sure that I look at my notes so that I don't go completely off track already. But one of the biggest things is our confidence, because that is the thing that kind of stops us from taking the action. So we can have as many goals as we want, but if we don't take any action, they just stay as dreams. And the biggest thing with any goal is actually taking those steps. And sometimes it can feel like you have a huge, huge goal. It might be a health goal. It might be a financial goal. It might be a career goal. And it can feel really hard to even see how that's going to come to pass. And I remember years ago, I had some mentorship. It was part of a leadership program, and we were paired with somebody in a different organization in a more senior role. And her advice to me was, well, where do you want to go in your career? And I said, well, I've just, it's just kind of naturally evolved. And I've never, I had a colleague who set out with the intention that she would get to matron level. And that was her ultimate goal. Whereas I ended up at matron level in the hospital, but with the intention that I set out at the beginning of my career being that I'd be quite happy as a senior staff nurse, or a band 6 as they might be called. And I ended up in more senior roles it just naturally evolved. The opportunities were there. I took the opportunities, put my hat in the ring for promotions, even though I didn't think that I would get it. And I did. So we had very different career pathways. Anyways, this mentor said to me, have a look at job descriptions for roles that are more senior than yours and have a look at what they want in the person specification and look at what training and opportunities, things that you can develop so that when things come up, you're actually better prepared rather than seeing a job you really, really want, but then realizing you don't have all the skills and qualifications that you need. I've taken that with me because sometimes we don't know what we actually want. We don't know what's possible. And we have a very much a fixed view of the things that are possible for us. We don't know what's around the corner. But if we take those small steps that are getting us ready, when opportunity comes knocking, we're prepared. So even if there isn't a job going with the career style for the moment, but even if there isn't a job that interests you at the moment, getting your CV ready, doing some extra training, thinking about how you could demonstrate transferable knowledge, all of that is going to be ready when that perfect job comes up. So you can get that application in super fast. The same thing goes for myself with my health journey. So when I was working part-time as a nurse, I was saying to myself, when I'm working full-time in my business, I'll have more time to go to the gym. I'll go to classes in the day. I will eat healthier, all of these things. But it didn't need to wait until I left that part-time role. And so I actually started going to the gym. And yes, it was really hard to, after a full day at work, to then go to an exercise class in the evening. But it got me into those good habits so that when I left that work, it was just a natural continuation that I could add in the daytime classes and swap out some of the evening classes, which hasn't quite happened because I've added daytime ones and still go to the evening ones. But anyway, but my point is I didn't wait to start. I didn't put off starting because the right opportunity wasn't there. And I think sometimes, especially when it's a really big goal that feels honestly unachievable, that actually taking those small steps can really help give you that confidence boost. Because a few people have said to me that, leaving the NHS job, it took courage. I'd done that for, 20 years after I did my training and 3 years with the training. So 23 years in one kind of massive system, in one way of working. And they were like, oh, that's very courageous. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It is taking action in spite of that fear. And I don't know who said that. Apologies if I misquoted, but essentially we build confidence through taking action. So you think about when you learnt to drive, if you have learnt to drive or ride a bike or any kind of skill like that, you don't feel confident in riding a bike, driving a car until you've done it. And it takes practice. So the first time that you give a presentation, I used to hate public speaking. I would be the one that everyone's like, no, speak up, I can't hear you in the back. And I'd literally be green thinking, am I going to vomit? Like, I can't say anything. And now it doesn't faze me. I get a little nervous at times, but I can speak in big rooms full of people and that confidence isn't there. Now, we can imagine ourselves in those situations, and that can help build some sort of self-trust because we can visualize it going well. But until we take action, until we start, putting our hands up when someone asks questions in a room and actually, daring to speak out loud, because that was another thing I had to overcome. So actually, we build confidence in tiny ways. And there are various reasons why we might not feel confident in our abilities to reach our goals. We may have tried many times. And I think this is time to really focus on forgiving ourselves for any previous failed attempts towards the goal. this time is different. This time, you are a different person to the last time you tried. Just because you tried, I don't know, to lose weight or to do more exercise or to apply to a new job, just because it didn't work last time doesn't mean that it won't work this time. You are very much different. We learn so much from those failed attempts. And it's really easy to lose confidence in our abilities. But I'm going to say this throughout this podcast. Why not you? Why can't it be you? Why can't you achieve your goals? And when I say that, what is coming up? What is your immediate response? Because you deserve to meet your goals. You deserve to prioritize them, to take some time away from your responsibilities and actually say, no, this is for me. I need to do this. And I know that is so hard when you have responsibilities, when you have caring responsibilities, a chaotic job, when you've got children with additional needs. Like, there are so many things. When your health is a struggle, when you've got health conditions, there are so many reasons why things haven't worked out before. But just because it hasn't worked out before doesn't mean it won't this time. And it kind of moves me on to my next point, is about how we class failure and how we can reframe that. So our previous attempts at meeting that goal have all been learning opportunities. It showed us what didn't work, what systems let us down. This is not a personal flaw. Absolutely not. It is just, it's information. And that information can really help us when we are thinking of our goals and how we are going to achieve them this time. We are very quick to be our harshest critic, to blame ourselves instead of the environment we're in, the expectations of, we look at social media and within one tiny 45-second reel, there is, this like before and after pictures, and it's done in the blink of an eye. And it can be so frustrating when you're living real life and you're like, but I want this transformation. I want it now. And it takes time. And that can be so hard. So please be gentle with yourself and actually just reframe those previous goal attempts, not as failure, but as learning. They've taught us something. And I think this is where community and having people cheering you on really, really counts. Having people with the same perspective that can help you reflect, help you troubleshoot and think, okay, well, so what could I do differently? What didn't quite go right last time? And how can I change that this time? And actually, there is so much power in having somebody being your cheerleader who will challenge you when you say, oh, I'm just rubbish, I can never do this, and go, no, you're fantastic. It was just this situation. And so, again, what I want to ask you is, what about if 2026 isn't about trying harder, about hustling more, about doing more? What if it's about feeling safe, feeling supported, and making those little steps towards progress and repairing trust in yourself? Trust, say, for example, it's a financial goal. Trust that I can make sensible money decisions. I can stick to a budget. Maybe I'm not going to call it a budget. Maybe I'm going to call it a money list or a, a spending promise list or something. What if I can just reframe that and believe that actually I am capable of this? And so, with that idea of repairing that trust in ourselves, of giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt, and even if we've tried to meet a goal multiple times and it's not worked, let's have a go at trusting ourselves and believing in ourselves and our ability to achieve that goal. So I'd like you to take a second and just really think about one goal that you've previously had that didn't work. And I want you to think with a curious mindset, not judgmental, not shaming, but just wondering, what happened? Is there anything that was going on in my life or what circumstances were happening that might have contributed to that not working? And how are things different now? So, is there a boundary that you need to put in place? Is it that you need to say to somebody else, okay, I need this amount of time to be able to work towards this goal? Is it that you need to change your working hours? Is it that you need to prioritize a different route on your commute and think, okay, I'm not going to go on that particular route because I know there's someone that'll sit next to me and distract me. And actually, I want to use that time to listen to an audiobook or to read a book or, whatever it is. And how can you keep yourself accountable? How can you make it easy to meet that goal? So, say, for example, if your goal is to take a packed lunch to work, you need to put the ingredients for the packed lunch on the shopping list. Thinking about how the night before you can get everything ready and have it ready and waiting to go in the morning. Because if we leave it to the morning, chances are you'll get up and you'll be like, I'm too tired, I'm not going to do it. And then it's another day that you haven't taken a packed lunch. So, how can we set up our lives to make it simple and easy, get rid of any resistance? So, if I want to make sure that I've always got my phone charged, is it having chargers in different rooms within the house? Is it about making sure that I set a reminder on my phone that the bins are due out on a certain day so we don't forget? Like, how can we make life simple? How can we reduce that resistance to actually really help us to achieve our goals? So, I want to talk about community and having people cheering you on. And there may be areas of your life where people are quite negative. And an example, I do network with other women in business, and a lot of women don't have supportive families or partners, always going, well, maybe need to get a job and those kind of things. And yes, there is a time and a place for that. But actually, having somebody that's got your back, that believes in you, is so important. And I'm really grateful that Ed is so much, so supportive. And he really believes in me. And that is something that I really cherish, because when I do need to do stuff on my business, he understands. He's not expecting me to do X, Y, and Z as well. Obviously, there is a trade-off. There are some days where, we want to do family things. We don't want to be me just buried in my phone doing stuff on the business. But I also have friends in business, and I can go and talk to them about new ideas. I can talk to them about challenges. They get that. And on those tough days, they cheer me on. And on their tough days, I cheer them on. Because actually having that community, having support and guidance is just so important. It's invaluable, because the biggest thing to overcome with any goal is our mindset and overcoming any challenges. Because it's really easy when things are going well to keep sticking to it. But it's when we get to those challenges, that's when we really need the support. We need people to rally around, to encourage us, to remind us of how far we've come, of all of the things we've overcome, of all of the amazing things about us. And so I want you to have a little think about the community around you. And it might not be the people who live in your house. It might be people in your phone. It might be people that you've just met online that you haven't met in real life. But those people are behind the scenes cheering you on, and they're going to help you when you get disheartened, when you suffer knockbacks, because look, life happens. I do not subscribe to toxic positivity. Everything is not always a bunch of roses. Things happen, but it's about how we get through those storms and get through the other side that makes the victory even more sweeter. And so, to anybody thinking about any goals that have not really worked out how you planned, you're not behind. You've learned from that. It's given you information on what doesn't work. Most of the famous inventors have got hundreds or thousands of failed attempts. And they don't class them as failures. They class them as things that we've learned. We learned that doesn't work. We learned that happens when we do that together. So let's be curious and think, okay, so what were the things, what were the sticking points? What got in my way last time? And how can I mitigate that? How can I remove any friction? How can I overcome that? And obviously, I have the Goal Getter membership, which is a community for us to join together and support each other when we are working towards our goals. But I'm also going to do a couple of more episodes all about goals and how to achieve them. The next episode, we're going to be talking about visualizing our goals and how that can really help us move forward and embody that future self, and really adds an extra element onto the mindset work that's really going to help us to achieve our goals. So I really hope that this has been useful, that you've enjoyed listening, and I'm wishing you the most wonderful new year. And don't feel pressure to set goals that you think other people want you to set or should set, or think, I think there's Veganuary normally, or dry January, various things that happen. But just think about why you're setting goals, because when you're setting goals, if you're not 100% invested, it's really hard to stick to. So it's got to be a goal that comes from you, that means something to you. And maybe that's another episode all about your why, and why this goal matters to you and how it's going to change your life. Anyway, I need to write that down before I forget. But thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Empowered by Claudia podcast. I'm Claudia from ClaudiaSabinaWellness.com. If you are ready to take your next step and transform your life, all the ways to connect with me, whether for coaching, courses, or any other sort of support, are in the show notes or on my website at www.ClaudiaSabinaWellness.com. If you found value in this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review, share it with a friend, or post about it on social media. Don't forget to tag me at Claudia_Sabina_wellness. Your support helps more people discover the tools and guidance they need. I cannot wait to support you on your journey. Much love.